that is home to over 30 real estate sales and marketing agents who service home buyers and home sellers throughout Boston, the South Shore, the South Coast, and Cape Cod. Our firm takes pride in assisting our clients in the next chapter of their lives by taking a holistic approach to their real estate endeavors. We believe that every move should be a moving experience. Every week, my co-host Melissa Wallace and I will provide you with my team's unique marketing approach to selling homes and share with you our expertise in navigating the home buying process. We value the experience of our agents at Boston Connect Real Estate so much that not only will you hear my perspective on real estate topics, occasionally you will hear the expert thoughts and opinions of our experienced agents at Boston Connect Real Estate. Be a part of our roundtable. If you have any questions during the show, please call 781-837-4900. We love to talk real estate. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and wherever you like to listen to podcasts at Talk Real Estate Roundtable. If you would like a one-on-one consultation with me and my team to discuss your real estate needs, you can connect with me at bostonconnect.com or 781-826-8000. Now, sit back, relax, take good notes, and let's talk real estate.
And good morning to all our South Shore neighbors. You are listening to Talk Real Estate Roundtable. My name is Melissa Wallace, and I am joined by the one and only Sharon McNamara.
Good morning.
Good morning. And we have a special co-host today. She's the cutest little thing we've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
We have Marley Bella.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Marley.
Yep.
She's a Frenchie, so she might not talk back.
She's not going to talk yet. She's shy.
She's not going to talk. But, you know, she might put a little, like... there every once in a while.
You did that yesterday. It cracked me up.
But she's the cutest thing ever. So she's your French bulldog here.
Yeah, she's, you know what? She's become quite the mama's girl these days. And, you know, we unfortunately had to put Gracie down in, you know, right now Thanksgiving. And Marley's been very, very lonely because, you know, she was a pup and she was always near her. But this morning when I was leaving, I was pulling out of the driveway and I just looked back at the door and there she was staring out the door. And I was like, oh, my goodness. So here she is.
Well, she's never been alone.
No.
She's always had a friend. And now she's, you know.
Yeah.
But now she's here.
Yep.
She's doing the show with us.
Yep.
So
and she spent a week with Sophie recently, her sister, over at Casey's house. So that was good. And we have Tim in studio, I believe, right?
Yes. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Plus one.
All three of us. All three ladies over here.
Yeah.
You
If you're watching us on social media, you can see her in the video. So she'll wave eventually.
She has her own. She has her
She'll
own.
wiggle her ears. She has her own seat. So she's a co-host for sure. So it's going to be kind of a dreary day, but you know,
I know. When's it going to, like, we just need to snap out of it. I just don't like it.
Yeah. Well, I hear that there's some surrounding states that have like 70, 80 degrees going on this weekend. And then there's us. So, oh, well, but eventually we'll get better. We'll get better weather.
And
right?
then you get the people who say, oh, but the joys of having, you know, the 4 seasons. Enough already. It's awful.
Note to self, Sharon does not like any season other than summer.
Exactly.
Yeah, Sharon loves summer. Okay, so today I thought, I went through some of our past shows and I looked in like the back end. So like after we do a show, we make it into a podcast, and I looked at the back end to see sort of, you know, what shows were downloaded most last year. And one of the most downloaded shows that we had last year was, you know, helping, you know, sell your parents' home. So I tweaked it a little bit. So we're going to be talking about loved ones. So it doesn't necessarily have to be your parents, but this is happening every single day. And it's not just you. You know, we talked about, you know, where you're at in your career, and we'll go over that again for those listeners that haven't heard it. But, you know, everybody is sort of helping everybody at different stages of their lives. But for some reason right now, there's a lot of agents that are helping this transition. And I know that you know this very well. So,
yeah. And it's interesting because Mark's nephew, his wife, so our niece, they live in town as well. And you know, she's from Canada, and she recently had to go up there to help her dad. And again, the medical system and process up there is a lot different than it is here. And he had been hospitalized for a little bit, and she was looking for a place for him to go into sort of an assisted living type situation. And I mean, she obviously, she and Chris and my nephew, helped me and Mark when I had to move my dad a couple times, once, like, and there are stages in this process too. But I think that the best thing is being prepared and being ready. And I feel like I wasn't.
Right.
Um, I was sort of thrown off guard by how quickly I had to do different stages. Like one was he was in an apartment on the second floor and I had to move him to a first floor apartment. And, then from there he's in, a nursing home over at Wingate, and they're wonderful over there to all the Wingate people. But May just recently went through the same thing, and I was talking to her when she was driving back, and she just said, "I'm exhausted. To do everything I had to do in a week." And she said, like, the paperwork process, and that's one of the things that she, called me again this week and said, "Can you introduce me to somebody, or refer me to somebody so I can do my will and my healthcare proxies?" And her oldest son, Will, who's at Assumption now playing football, he's 18, so she has to have a healthcare proxy for him, right? Because that, and then little Chris is going to be turning 18 soon, so she'll need a healthcare proxy for him. So I think it makes you think about all the things that you think you have plenty of time to do, and you really don't. And even though, our segment is about moving and that process, there are all kinds of pieces that go along with it. So maybe we can do little segments or little like episodes that have to deal with the legal and, the legalities of things too, because we have a lot of great attorneys in our arena as well.
Yeah, we do. We have one coming here on Tuesday to talk with all of our agents about some new laws. But I think that, when it comes to helping a loved one in their transition, no matter how much you prepare for it, it's the emotional aspect of it too that you're probably not prepared for. But the whole legal aspect and the logistics of moving and helping, we're happy to help with that part. So I wanted to sort of go over, this process of, helping a loved one in their transition with their life.
And it's interesting, Mel, as you're talking, and you can tell, I'm interested to wonder if our listeners hear something different in my voice, because this is so, not only is it emotional for the loved one, it's very emotional for you, not the one that is moving, the senior or somebody else. It not only is it emotional for them, it's very emotional for you. And I honestly think that as I'm sitting here I'm thinking of some of the clients that have come my way in the past, year, especially, that it would be nice for us to maybe connect with, maybe even like a therapist or something like that, like a counselor, to help in that process, because I can only give help based on where I've been and what I've been through. And there are a lot of things with, my dad being diagnosed with, Lewy body dementia. And I cried on the air a year ago when this show happened. There are so many things that I wish I had seen sooner or understood sooner. And, I know there are a lot of great, different avenues you can go in to get that emotional support, but it might be nice to, for us to maybe try to connect with, what do you think, like a counselor or someone like that, on helping with that process and what you can do. Because listening to May doing this just last week, it brought back memories for me, because, she brought her dad from the hospital back to his apartment just so he could sort of go through things and, understand, you know what I mean? Like, it's almost like saying that final goodbye, or farewell to the apartment that you were once in. And with my dad, he was in the hospital, but he went right into rehab, for, his gait and all these other things. So he went right to rehab at Wingate and then ultimately ended up staying there and never left. So I wonder if that process of never being able to say goodbye to his belongings.
Yeah.
Well,
that's what I'm saying. There's an emotional aspect, not just for those who are helping the person who's moving, but that person who's moving and having to deal with those emotions, because your life can change in an instant, no matter who you are. So
Yeah, and like not knowing where all your things are and what are you doing with them. And
Well, Nanu's couch is at my house, so if he asks about it.
yeah. And that was sort of a nice thing too, is that when he did move into his new place, like I was able to, well, when he went into assisted living, but even when he went from one apartment to the other, I was able to find a place for a lot of his items, you know what I mean? So I know that they went to a good place and not just in the trash. And we've had this conversation before about, when we're purging or when we're, having a estate sale and, helping that loved one and, especially thinking about like if you have like a mom and a dad or an aunt and an uncle, whoever it is that you're helping, the dumpster, one of them deceases and then the dumpster shows up. And then, there's family members that, things are just getting thrown in there. And then there are other family members like, well, that meant something to me.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I'm actually right now, I don't know why, I just had a flashback of when Mark's mom passed away and, things were getting donated and, in the trash and stuff. And, Papa was still alive and he was at that time and he was asking, is there anything you want? I go, I don't want anything. I don't need anything. And then lo and behold, I saw this round Tupperware bowl thing. It's thin, whatever. And it had to have been over 50 years old because I remember that sitting on the kitchen counter all the time and Mark telling me the story of, I remember when, we were kids, we would line up going out the door and, my mother would have that open and we would take a cookie on our way out the door,
Yeah.
So I really wanted that.
Yeah.
Most people would have just thrown that in the trash, right?
I kept a strainer.
Yeah. Yeah.
When my Nana passed. But I think getting back to your point of, which sort of person are you? Somebody who is purging or, keeping onto those memories. I think as an agent, it's important to know which person your client is, because if it's the type of person who, is attached to all those memories, they might need a little bit more, extra care and more time to get their property, ready to sell. And, it takes a special type of person to help someone who is grieving and is going through something that they've probably never gone through before. So, and that's why, our agents always work relational. So, and gain trust from, their clients because we really do care about what stage you're at in your life and whether you're helping yourself or helping a loved one. It's important to, for us to understand where you're at so we can meet you there.
Yeah, it's that holistic approach that we take, to helping people through these processes. To all of our listeners, you are listening to Talk Real Estate Roundtable here on WATD. And the phone number is 781-837-4900, 781-837-4900. If you have any, comments, questions, or anything about stories to share about this topic, feel free to call us. If you have other real estate questions, of course, you can always call us as well. Tim will get you through. You can always text to that number too if you're a little shy, 781-837-4900. Again, we are talking today about essential tips for selling a loved one's home. And there's a lot that goes into it. And as you were talking, I was thinking, oh yeah, this, all the different aspects of it, and the emotional part of it. And I don't even know, we're so into the show like right away that I'm like I'm thinking, what are the processes? Like, how do you start it? Like, what are the legalities of it all? And I think that making sure that you do have your house in order is really, really important, because, when that time comes, it isn't really the time to be thinking about these things.
Yeah, it's almost too late.
Yeah. Or you make rash decisions that you could potentially regret later.
Well, that's what I mean by too late. It's like because of the emotional aspect of it. And maybe there's somebody out there that is not emotional at all, because that happens.
Yeah.
But, 9 times out of 10, this is something that is an emotional part of somebody's life. So, and just sort of, again, meeting people where they're at. But, we don't ever want anybody to, even if it's your own home or whatever your situation is, we never want anybody to make a rash decision because, sometimes you regret them later on. And we never want anybody to walk away from a transaction or a sale of a home, purchase of a home with some sort of a regret because we didn't do our job right if they did.
Yeah. And too, it's interesting too, because there are different things. I mean, is there one person that's helping with this process? Like if mom or dad has gone into assisted living or mom or dad have, recently passed, is there just one person who's making all the decisions? That's generally, that would be the case if you have everything set up, in your will and who's your trustee and all these other things. So that person ultimately has the final decision. But I'm thinking back this past year, that we've done several of these situations where, the families have been very close. I'm thinking of the one over in Center Commons, and the three sisters were very much aligned on how they wanted things to work, and they worked so well together.
And that's an ideal situation because it doesn't always happen like that. And a lot of people, if you've lost somebody, and that death changes people, and it can sometimes bring out the worst in people. I'll just be honest. So sometimes it's not always smooth sailing because not everybody is on the same page. Yeah. But in that situation, all three sisters were, and what a gift.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they were all, and I can't, I'm so upset about this because they left their mom. I worked with their mom at Reebok, and mom was there for a very, very long time. And they left me. I was telling them about, the department I worked in, and, a lot of the players came in, it was the year, like the times of Shaquille O'Neal coming out of college and things, having his shoe on my desk. I wasn't really impressed about those. The only person that I really loved meeting was Adam Oates from the Bruins. Ethan will remember him. And they left me a signed autographed picture of Adam Oates. And when I was doing my open house, I didn't want to lose it and I didn't want to wrinkle it. So there was a magnet on the refrigerator and I put it on the side of the refrigerator and I forgot about it.
Oh.
So if they're listening, I'd like that back. I'd like that back.
I'd like that back. Oh, no.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's also important to point out that, I lost my train of thought. Oh,
okay.
no.
Well, I'll go back to one of the things I was thinking. So we had that one situation, but we also had another situation last year that was absolutely positively horrific.
Oh.
It was horrific. And I
know this one?
Yeah. Oh. And I felt terrible about, my client, in the situation she was going through. And I remember showing up at her parents' home down in Quincy. Oh, because I don't like to give names or anything, obviously. So, or the street address or anything, but we were down in Quincy. Actually, we had two in Quincy last year that was, and one of them was good and one of them not so much. And I just remember sitting on the couch with her when I went there to look at the house the first time. And honestly, we sat on that couch for 2 hours. Yeah. And you remember? And you were just
I have pillows from that house.
Yeah. You're like,
I take a little something from every house. They give it to me.
Yes, of course. We would never take anything. I had told a story before about all the statues of Mary that are in the back of my
do have to
car.
Your mother does have all those.
They're in the rubbish. I'm taking them.
Yeah.
But with that situation, it was really awful because, unfortunately, there were some siblings who weren't in, the lives of their parents. There was one child that was taking care of the parents for all those years. And you said it, things, unfortunately, death does things to people. And I was going to correct you and say, death does certainly do things to people. There's that sadness, those aspects of it. But it also, I think it's greed that changes people in these situations because unfortunately what I see, and I see both sides of it and every other way around it, I see them all. This situation was more about money than it was about losing mom and dad.
Yeah.
And I think that was the hardest part for my client because she was so grieving her mother and father, like grieving. And this process took over 2 years to like finally get to the point of getting the house on the market. And, her and her husband and her kids are like taking care of this house and, trying to like preserve it, what it is and what it means to them. And then on the other side, she's fighting with siblings over the
dealing with a
money.
sibling. Yeah.
So it does get complicated. And that's why I do think it's really, really important, whether you're estranged from family members or not. Like these things come up when parents decease or aunts and uncles and there's wills and all this other stuff. You have your house in order before that happens.
Well, I wanted to extend, and I remembered my train of thought, but I wanted to extend it from just parents to all loved ones, because I'm thinking of a 3-family that you had, and I think it was the aunt that had passed away, maybe, and it was a hoarder situation, and that was a property that was probably not ready to be sold, but it was because of the circumstances, there was nothing we could really do. Like we just had to show it the way that it was, when you have a 3-family that is all hoarder, every single floor.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Well, and that's the other piece of that too, is when you are, estranged from family members, and that one was in Dorchester, and that 3-family, and when you're estranged from family members and you just don't even understand what's going on. And, that's the other thing too, is I definitely want to have a counselor. If there is a counselor or a therapist that's listening to this show or listening to the podcast, please reach out to us, because I would really love to get deep into some of, like, I'm not even thinking about it until we're right here. Like, we really get deep into the psychological aspects of things that happen. I mean, a hoarder situation, I've had several, like I've been in the business a long time, so I can say several about many different aspects, but I had several hoarders, and I don't know if it's just because we understand here. I think us and all of our agents understand genuine care, and that's what helps us through the processes of people who are going through those things. But certainly I'm not a therapist or a psychiatrist or any of that stuff. Certainly I can't prescribe medicine. But when I show up, I don't know, that's just instinctually, you sort of know, like you don't go in and say, oh my Lord, what is going on in here? Why are you keeping all this crap?
Yeah.
Like you don't do that.
No, you have to be sensitive to the situation. But I think that you also probably do a good job of bringing up the obvious, like, because I have been in a hoarder's house with you and Mary and going, filing one by one, like, through the path that's through the house. And, there is an aspect of it that's like, okay, well, mentally, why are they doing that? And, no, we're not therapists, but we are humans and we care about our clients. So it's like, we really hope that this person gets, the help that they need. And, they were moving on to something else. And we really hope that, they didn't bring this with them.
Yeah. Like, how can I help you through these next steps? What can I make you more comfortable with? These are the things that will need to be done in order to get your home sold. Are you prepared for that? Do you need more time? Good morning, Dee. We see that you're on.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning. So, going through those emotional aspects and steps with people. But you know what? There's also that tough love. And I do give that to people when they need it.
Yeah.
And there was somebody recently in our office this week.
Yeah.
And, I loved that, like, our common thread came up of Dorchester and being from there, knowing the same people and everything. I'm not going to get into that situation, but at one point I just saw, oh my gosh, they are like spiraling in their own grief here with what's going on. I just had to pull bootstraps there. Like you have to make some decisions here. So, but I'm thinking about it, and it's like, how people find us and me and, our team and stuff like that. It's, obviously through the radio show and through past clients and things like that. It's what a gift it is for me to know that family members trust me with what they're going through. I mean, I'm thinking of one we had in Abington as well, and she was like, I don't know what to do with this furniture. She's like, it's good furniture. My kids don't want it and nobody wants it. What am I going to do with this furniture? And I remember doing the open house and there were a few pieces that were left. And I just, said to people, the seller would like to, leave this with the new homeowner, if this is something that they would like, blah, blah, blah. And people did come up to me afterwards. There was one couple and they were like, this week we really can't afford the house. We know that there's going to be multiple offers, blah, blah, blah. But if they are trying to, get rid of those pieces, we would love to have them. So it's just keeping your ears and eyes open for people, to help them with all aspects of that stuff.
I remembered what I lost my train of thought about. So there is a difference between, if you are helping a loved one sell their house, if you've ever lived in that house, and if you have not. So if you have not, chances are you don't know much about that house. So I'll give this is supposed to be an essential tip. So here's an essential tip. If you know potentially in your future that you might have to take care of a property that you don't live in, of somebody, in your life, get some information about that. Get some information about that property, not just, the whole logistics of how you're going to sell it or what you're going to do after they either go in assisted living or, move on to the next chapter of their life or, sadly pass away. Find out some information, because there have been times where, you try to sell a property and we essentially have to tell a buyer, unknown.
Yeah.
Unknown.
How old is the roof? We don't know.
We don't know.
I mean, some of those things we can find out. We can go to town hall if permits were pulled and things like that. But you know what? I know we're spiraling out of control, but I'm so glad that our show
We're like
is
twister.
Roundtable. Yeah, it's
A
like
tornado.
Roundtable, but it's like we're sitting here just having coffee, and it's like, remember when? It always remembers. The what's that show with the fishermen there, the Alaskan fish, the crab guys there, the crab fishermen.
Oh, the king crab.
Whatever.
I don't know. I don't watch it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a show. I stopped watching it. It's like, okay, you pulled up a bucket, and how many crabs do you have? Yay. But anyways, that show, at the end of the season, they always have like sort of a little round table. And you just sort of reminisce about shows. That's what I feel like we're doing right now, because I'm thinking about all of our past clients that we've helped. And one of the things is like, you want to leave a legacy, not a burden. And having a notebook and just starting there and just writing down, this is when the roof went in, this is when this happened, because it's going to make it easier for your loved one when the time comes for them to sell your house. And again, we were talking about like parents and stuff, but it really could be anybody.
Yeah.
So let's just extend it to loved ones, friends, and all that other stuff. But yeah, even cousins, like letting people know. We actually last year, it was not this last Thanksgiving, the Thanksgiving before, we had a client who came in. He was getting ready to put the house on the market. He was going to come on at the beginning of the year. He came in, was doing everything with Mary. We gave him his pie for Christmas. For Thanksgiving, because that's our thing. And lo and behold, we got not like a call from a distant cousin, and they're like, he's in the hospital. He wanted me to reach out to you, blah, blah, blah. Because his sister passed away, we were selling the sister's house. And then ultimately, he never made it out of the hospital and he passed away, but he didn't have anywhere that he had been talking to us and that he wanted, you know what I mean? And then the cousin was sort of removed from the situation and didn't tell the other sister, like, oh, they were using this agent. So, that's another thing too, not because we want the business, but because if we're having conversations with you and you're telling us some of these things,
we have the information.
We have the information and we can probably help your loved one the best when that time comes. So just write down our name. I mean, that's happened several times where people are like, I found your business card on my mother's desk. One was on a keyboard. One person came in that I met recently and said, this is going to be a little weird, but I have it in my will now that my kids will call you when something happens to me.
Well, there you go. It's legal.
Yeah.
And we'll get into the legal aspect of it too. But Amy Troop, who called last week into the show, she's a realtor here on the South Shore. She commented and said, good morning. We need to start making all of our clients know about town meetings to stop the division of we the people by adding more taxes and more taxes to the busy burden of our lives. So
Yeah. And to Amy, I mean, Amy called in last week and, she's an agent. We just wear different logos, but she is wonderful. I do consider Amy a friend. We've been in this business forever. I mean, we don't hang out or any of that, but I know, just in her life, there's been a couple, transitional things that have happened to her over the past couple of years, like with companies and, a close friend of hers in the industry, Joel Sugarman from Rockland Trust. He passed away suddenly recently, and I reach out to Amy. I send her a text, just like, "Hey, here's a little heart, just to let you know that I am thinking of you."
Mm-hmm.
And when I did that recently to her, I said, "Amy, I need to reach out to you when things aren't going, like, when I know that you might just need a hug, you know." But Amy is great, and she has a lot of wisdom when it comes to real estate, and she also does from a political vein as well, and is very committed. And it's interesting that Amy just said that. Now I'm going to go a different track, because I went to an affordable housing meeting. I'm on the Affordable Housing Committee in Pembroke, and Judy Parks is on that committee, and she has been on several committees throughout her lifetime in the town of Pembroke. And Andy Wandell is on there as well, Ginny Wandell's husband. So Ginny, everybody knows Ginny Wandell. She's a full-time real estate agent here at Boston Connect Real Estate. Her husband is on planning board, and he's on this committee as well. And we were sitting there, and some things came up, and I realized at that moment, one of the reasons why I love to be on these committees, and sometimes it's like, oh, I'm exhausted. Why am I doing this? Like, do I need to really volunteer? Like, And one of the reasons I was like, I love this, that I'm learning from the people who were there and who know, because we need younger people like Amy and, a lot of younger people than me, to be on these committees, so we know our towns and we can help support and see where, the voids are that need repair. And after the meeting, I actually said to Judy, who I literally adore. You've seen her in here. I've notarized some stuff for her and her husband. And she's just, there's a personality about her that I want in me, that she's just very level-headed, she's very, very smart. And I said to her after the meeting, I was thinking, it's really sad. Like, when we don't have people like you around, like, who's going to know all these things? Like, there's like a lot of things. Like they're just I remember back in 1972 when this happened. Like, you need to get involved in your town so you can make a difference and a change. And one of the things that I do think that needs adjusting in probably all of our towns is assistance for our elderly clients who are aging in place, because they're really not getting much increases in their Social Security, but like, our taxes are going up. And of course it makes sense. Like, the schools need repairs and redone, and, fire departments and all that. So Amy, maybe we can start a little organization where we can do that type of stuff, make a difference for our elderly.
Oh, I think you guys are making a difference anyways, but I think that would be a good idea.
Yeah. So I did write, I'm going back to this, leave a legacy and not a burden. And that is part of, having your house in order. And I mean that from a legal aspect. And I do mean that from just a general aspect. And I know, like, in my office, I have a drawer that, has, the important stuff in it, like, that just, sort of says where things are. But now that I think of it, I don't think I have a full book of, like, when the additions were done and all that other stuff. So I'm going to work on that.
Something to do.
Maybe
Add it to the list.
Yeah, I know.
I think I still have a folder that says if Trish dies. So Trish Flynn from that was done way before me, even of passwords that are probably not even relevant, of things like, okay, this is how we do things.
Yeah,
if anything happens at the office,
she starts the SOPs. Yeah, in the
office. I want to get into sort of so preparation for selling a loved one's home. So what is sort of the first step? I would think that it would be assessing the property and where it's at, in that aspect.
Yeah, I know, from like, what is the house worth and everything like that. that's just, I do it the same way, really, as I do go through the house and I look at it and I compare it to other properties that are in the area with the same condition and same type of location and all that. And then that's, that part of the assessment is easy, getting you the price. It's, getting in there and seeing everything that's in the house. So again, if you have a hoarder situation or if you have just like everything has to get out of here, do it sooner than later. And sometimes, if you know that, mom and dad, I'm thinking about another family last year that I helped. And ultimately, my advice to them was they didn't know that mom and dad had gotten a reverse mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
These are the things I think that are really important for any of our older listeners is don't be ashamed, or because I think that like there was also like this mentality of, my kids don't need to know about my finances.
Yeah, people don't talk about their finances.
Yeah, I don't want my kids to think that I am in some type of trouble and I can't afford to stay in my house. Because a lot of times elderly, older people, they're afraid that if they admit that they're having a hard time affording being in the house, that they're going to take them out of the house, that their kids are going to take them out of the house. And perhaps they will, and maybe that is the best avenue, but I think preparing for that, but letting the ones who are taking care of you know these things before, like you said, it's too late, is really, really important, because at the end, you might not have any other alternatives because you waited so long. In one of the situations I'm thinking from last year, they did have a reverse mortgage on the house that nobody told the kids about. Dad had deceased several years ago. And then when they were trying to help mom, to get into an assisted living type situation or nursing home, they were like, what is this? Like they thought that they would have that money, to help mom,
To help her. Yeah.
pay for that. And unfortunately, when I went in there, I said to them, I'm just going to be honest, like everything that you're doing to this house, I think is, and there was a lot of things that had to be done, right? I just don't think that you should put anything more into this because it's upside down from where after all those years, mom had the money and it kept her in this house for 20 years. But then now there's the interest aspect of it, that the value of the house is not matching how much is owed with that reverse mortgage. And they're like, even if we could get like a couple months, like out just to help. And I was like, honestly, like try to sell it on your own or something, because like the only people who would end up getting paid, like making money here, are the agents who are doing it.
Yeah.
Me included. Like I can't do this for free. I don't, no one works for free. In hard situations, like I try my best to help as much as I can. But I mean, I have you as staff, I have Mary as a team member. It costs money to, have photographers and do all those things. And then there's buyer's agents. I mean, things are sort of different now with the buyer agent thing, but I'm not getting into that. But ultimately, they did end up selling it to, I feel like it went to a family member, but they ended up having to give that person, like they ended up having to come up with money to finalize everything.
Yeah. I'm just thinking of a property on the same street that I went with Mary to the listing appointment and met a gentleman there, and his father had passed away. It was his father's home, and he was trying to do as much as he could to get the house prepared, but ultimately said, I'm running out of money myself. So this is sort of the condition that the house is in, and what we can get for it in this condition is just going to have to be enough. Ultimately it did sell, and he was able to get back some of the money that he put into his father's home, but again, like leaving a legacy and not a burden. He was trying to do the best that he could to prepare his father's home, and it was draining him, and we never want that to happen.
Exactly. And like that's exactly the point that I was actually trying to make with a situation like him. Perhaps he should have called us sooner.
Yeah.
Right. Before he started to do the things that he was doing.
Yeah.
And I know Bob Gleason, who is an agent here, he had called me one day this week, and we were talking about a property that he's been assessing, and he's, like, should it just go on the market as is, or should I recommend that they do that they do things to it in order to get the house ready for the market. So, I went through the whole scenario with him, and, ultimately it's a great house, so, it has like the mechanicals and stuff like that. So I was like, well, highlight those things, not the
Yeah.
cosmetic things, right?
Yeah.
So cosmetics, somebody can paint,
Yeah.
people aren't afraid of that. But that's one of the things too that I find that people, they get themselves worked up. And I was thinking of, I had ChatGPT help me the other day, and I was thinking of different shows that we could do, and one of them came up that like HGTV has like destroyed my vision of what real estate really is, something like that. And it's true. So I think that the buyers have these expectations that are unrealistic. And I think that sellers feel, oh my gosh, how am I ever going to be
How
able
am I
to
going to
do that?
compete with that?
Yeah, how am I going to do that? And guess what? You don't always have
You
to
don't
do
have to. Yeah.
it. Sometimes putting money into, and we use this term, and don't take offense to it. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be mean, but like putting lipstick on a pig is still, guess what? Just
Yeah.
a pig with pretty lipstick.
Yeah.
A pig with pretty lips.
Pretty lips. When an agent comes to me and sort of asks that question to me, my question to them is, well, what's the motivation of the seller? So
That good one, Mel.
what's the motivation? Is the motivation to sell quickly and to get the most money out of it? Are they selling, for an estate? Are they selling, what's their situation and what's their motivation for selling? Or do they want to test the market? So
Yeah.
I think it's really important to sort of know where, again, meeting your clients where they're at.
Yep. 781-837-4900 is the number over at WATD 95.9. And Tim McKinney is our producer. We love having him on Saturdays. And he can either take a text from you on that phone or and read us your question, or you can call in and he will pipe you over to us. 781-837-4900. We would love to hear from you. If you've gone through this or you're thinking about this, ask us a question that maybe we're not thinking about right now. 781-837-4900.
When it comes to like probate and estate sales, we only have a few minutes left, but let's rope in some of our professionals that we work with. Somebody comes to you and says, oh, my parents' home or my loved one's home is in an estate, or, I'm going through probate. What's your first step for them?
So I think it's really important is, everybody, if you have a will, if you don't have a will, these are all the things where we say, leave a legacy, not a burden. And we keep on talking about having like a session here in the office. And I'm going to have you hold me to the fire on doing some of these things and having some of our attorneys in here that can just like help our clients with that. Does it have to go through probate because there is no will? Those are the questions. I know, the show after us is McNamara on Money, which is McNamara Financial. So Alyssa McNamara Reed with Michael McNamara and Justin McNamara. They do a lot of shows on this type of stuff as well, with, the probate and that aspect of, selling, not really the selling of the houses part, but like all the estate planning type stuff
the
as
preparation.
well. Yeah, the financial aspect of all those things. And I think that, if it has to go to probate, it takes time. You need the license to sell, and that's like a whole show in itself. So we kept on saying that we're going to put a notebook in here so we can the shows that we want to have.
Yeah.
So the legal show on the aspects of, what did I just say? The license to sell and probate and all of that. So that's like a whole full show in its own. But that's what I mean. This part of the show is about preparing for that.
Excuse you, Marley.
Marley. Do you have something to say, my friend? Hello, baby.
She said it's time to leave, Mama.
Hi. But like that, like what we're talking about today is maybe step one is just preparing. Having one of the things I highlighted in your whole, you have 2 pages, 3 pages of this, agenda here. And the only thing I highlighted was having the conversation. So as we're coming to the end of this show, I think, and again, we threw a bunch of little pieces at you.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think we should take our shows and do them in like segment 1, segment 2, and segment 3.
Cut it up.
Yeah. And that way there, maybe it's, oh, they're talking about this again, but we're talking about it, different aspects of it. But I think first and foremost is having the conversation with your loved ones, whether it's a parent or a spouse or, especially the spouse, and one thing that I see that warms my heart a lot is, my couples who are older and they're aging in place and they're trying their best to do that. It seems like for the most part, what I'm seeing, and it just might be a generational thing, that the husband is always worried about what is going to happen to her if something happens to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, those are conversations that have to be had, not just with your loved one, but with your kids. These are tough conversations. I'm telling you that your kids might want to shy away from it. You might want to shy away from it, but this is just part of adulting, that you sort of have to take care of, because if you want things to be done fairly and your kids aren't, fighting after the fact and you really not having any say in what you want, you should be having those conversations now.
Yeah. If anybody wants to get some tips from you, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, I'll even give you my cell phone number, 781-294-4848. 781-294-4848 is my cell phone. And, I do have, I hate to call it an ad, but I do have an item of value that they left it here. I don't know how it got here,
Yeah,
but
someone dropped it off the other day.
Oh, did they? Yeah. Council on Aging there here in Pembroke, they have, their, what is it called? Like they're just their monthly newsletter, which is literally like a little magazine. And they asked me if I would do an ad in there because, of course, that's what helps them get that out. And I said, I really don't want to call it an ad, but I'm happy to do an item of value. So I do a half page, and it just has, tips for seniors in there. And this month, they allow me to change it every month, and I have to actually get better at doing that. But this month's I noticed was on like decluttering your home and getting your home sort of ready. And those are things that people want to do. I think, I don't know why this just came to my head, but labeling things is really, really important as well. So if you have like a picture on the wall and, your daughter said, oh, I really want that, and you agreed to do that, put a little Post-it note on the back of it, or get some painter's tape and put the person's name on it. I said that she could have this.
Yeah.
Put it on the back of it so there are no fights about it. And there was something else I was going to say about that, but I don't remember now.
Yeah. We just have less than 2 minutes. But, I just, final thoughts on this. I know we were sort of all over the place, but I think having the conversation is a great pinpoint for that. Leaving a legacy, not a burden, just having conversations and being honest and open. It's difficult conversations that move you forward and get you to where you want to be.
Yeah. And I agree with you, having the conversation and, you having the conversation with, your spouse or whoever, that's number one, you deciding together what you feel you want is best and starting that purging process, right? Oh, that's what I was starting to say is labeling things. We did have a client who moved out of state recently. They're not elderly or anything, but they moved out of state and things were sort of rushed. Like they just felt rushed for some, but they, one knew what was in one of these boxes and the other one didn't. And it was a box of VHS tapes, like, for the VCR, but it looked like old, like movies. But what somebody didn't realize was helping them pack that it wasn't just old movies like Grease, one of those movies. It was family videos.
And did they throw it away?
Someone threw it away.
Oh, no.
She's devastated.
Yeah.
And she, it was, we do a final walkthrough. I knew the box wasn't there, but I did reach out to the new owner, the agent, and said, can you reach out to them, see if that box is there? It wasn't. And then, she's like, I wonder if she called like someplace that she donated stuff. They're like, no, like it wasn't there. So make sure you're labeling those things. So rainy days are a perfect day to start doing some of that stuff. But again, if you want more information on this, I'd be happy to help you and give you a little synopsis. Maybe we should put together a little something, top 10 tips, essential tips. 781-294-4848 is my cell phone number. You can always get in touch with any of our agents here at Boston Connect Real Estate, 781-826-8000. Open houses?
Just your new construction this weekend.
All right. Well, you can go to Cushing Trails or you can go to Cochise Estates. I know Kristen Howlett, full-time real estate agent, is there today at Cochise. I'll be there tomorrow. And
Faith is at Cushing today.
Yeah, Faith
And Mary
Birmingham.
will be there tomorrow.
Yep. Full-time real estate agents. So go see them. So you can go to bostonconnect.com. Check out our podcast. It looks great. That's what? Talk Real Estate Roundtable.com. We'll see you next week. Bye, Tim.
Bye.
The South Shore's breaking news, weather, and traffic station, 95.9 WATD FM, March